What if I told you Google is finally making a Pixel phone that's 100% Google, inside and out? That's exactly what's happening with the upcoming Pixel 10 Pro, and the leaks we've just seen say a lot. This isn't just another small update, it's a big move by Google to take full control of what powers its phones. Let's break it down. A set of leaked images just showed off a working Pixel 10 Pro prototype. These aren't just mock-ups or concept images. This is a real device being tested, labeled as DVT 1.0, which means it's in the design verification test stage. That's an early stage where the hardware is close to final, and engineers test if everything works as expected. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The processor inside. It's called Tensor G5, and this is the first time Google has fully designed the chip from the ground up. Older Pixel phones used processors partly made by Samsung, but not this one. The Tensor G5 is 100% Google designed and will be made by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the same company that builds chips for Apple. Even better, it's built on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's third-generation 3-nanometer process. This means the chip should run faster, stay cooler, and use less power than older ones. One of the leaked images had a typo that said it was built on a 5-nanometer process, but that was just an error. The real number is 3 nanometers. Inside the Tensor G5, there's a smart mix of cores. One high-power Cortex-X4 Core 5, Cortex-A725 cores for handling tasks smoothly, 2 Cortex-A520 cores for battery-saving activities. This setup should offer a great mix of power and efficiency. The leaked model also shows the phone will come with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. That's a major upgrade, especially for people who use their phones for gaming, video editing, or keeping lots of apps open. Now, let's talk about the software. The device is running Android 16, but not a quarterly platform release version. That's probably because it's still in testing. The modem used here is the same Exynos 5400 5G modem that powered the Pixel 9 series. It's not new, but still very capable. As for the design, there are a few changes worth noting. The camera bar on the back now stretches closer to the sides of the phone. The metal frame around the rear glass looks thinner, and the camera bump looks a little thicker than before. These are small changes, but they do make the phone feel more refined. One more thing. Remember the SIM card tray? On the Pixel 6 Pro, it was on the bottom left. Now, on this prototype, it's been moved to the top left of the phone. It's a small change, but another sign that Google is rethinking the hardware layout. Oh, and here's something fun. Even. The default ringtones and system sounds for the Pixel 10 Pro have leaked. So even if you don't get this phone, you can at least sound like you did. To sum it all up, the Pixel 10 Pro isn't just about better specs, it's about Google finally taking control of the whole experience, from the chip to the software, to the design. And with a possible launch date set for August 13th, we might be just weeks away from seeing it all become official. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more tech updates. We'll keep you posted as more leaks and news come in. Thanks for watching.
Could Apple be getting ready to cut ties with Qualcomm? It's looking more and more likely, especially with fresh hints pointing to a major shift in the upcoming iPhone 17 lineup. Apple has been working behind the scenes for years to develop its own modem chips, and now it seems like the company is finally prepared to put that work into action. Recently, during Qualcomm's earnings call, their chief financial officer revealed something that caught a lot of attention. He said Qualcomm expects to provide chips for only around 70% of the iPhone 17 models. That's a noticeable drop, and it clearly shows that Apple is beginning to rely less on Qualcomm's technology. So what does this mean for the new iPhones? Based on what analysts are saying, Apple's own modem, rumored to be called the C1, will likely be used in the regular iPhone 17 and a new model that might replace the current Plus version, possibly named iPhone 17 Air. Meanwhile, the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max are expected to continue using Qualcomm's chips for a little while longer. This wouldn't be Apple's first test run. Last year, there were reports that Apple quietly tested its in-house modem on a model called the iPhone 16e. It wasn't part of the main lineup and gave Apple a chance to experiment without risking major sales or customer satisfaction. From what insiders have shared, the results were promising. While the C1 modem may not have outperformed Qualcomm's version in speed, it offered stable performance and possibly even better battery efficiency. That's a big win, especially for users who care about long battery life. Apple's strategy here feels very familiar. Just like the company switched from Intel processors to its own M-series chips in Macs, like the M1 and M2, it seems to be following the same path with modems. Making its own hardware allows Apple to fine-tune everything for better performance, smoother integration, and more control over the entire device. Now, some people might wonder why Apple doesn't just switch all models to its own motor right away. The answer likely comes down to performance and user expectations. The Pro models are typically aimed at power users, and Qualcomm's chips are still slightly ahead when it comes to speed and overall reliability. Apple may want a little more time to polish its modem before pushing it into high-end models. There's also the new iPhone 17 Air to think about. It's expected to be thinner and lighter, which usually means a smaller battery. That's where Apple's modem might come in handy. If it really does help improve battery efficiency, it could be a smart move for this slimmed-down version of the iPhone. But beyond the tech, there's also a financial reason for Apple's shift. Qualcomm holds a lot of patents, and licensing those technologies is expensive. By making its own chips, Apple can save money and reduce its dependence on another company's intellectual property. It also gives Apple more freedom to design the iPhone the way it wants, without needing to build around someone else's hardware. Other companies have done this too. Samsung, for example, uses its Exynos chips in some models and also supplies modems to brands like Google. Apple moving in this direction is not just about cutting costs, it's also about owning more of the entire iPhone experience. Looking ahead, if things go smoothly with this year's rollout, we might see Apple using its own modems across all iPhone 18 models next year. That would be a huge shift, not just for Apple, but for the entire mobile industry. Qualcomm would lose one of its biggest clients, and Apple would take another major step toward full hardware independence. What do you think about Apple building its own modem? Do you trust them to match or even beat Qualcomm's performance in the long run? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you like this breakdown, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more updates on Apple and the latest in tech. Apple had a bold vision for the iPhone 17 Air, creating the first fully portless smartphone. However, those plans didn't go as expected. The company ultimately decided to abandon this approach, largely due to regulatory concerns, particularly in the European Union. This device, which was intended to replace the iPhone Plus, was originally meant to rely entirely on wireless charging and data transfer, eliminating the need for any physical ports. But after careful consideration, Apple chose to take a step back, mainly to avoid potential legal complications. The idea of a smartphone without ports has been a topic of discussion for years. Some users still miss the headphone jack, while others feel that if a company is going to remove ports, it should fully commit rather than forcing users to rely on additional accessories like adapters. According to Apple analyst Mark Gurman, the iPhone 17 Air was supposed to be a major move toward a future without ports. However, Apple changed course, likely because of the challenges it could face in the European market. Regulations in the EU have already pushed Apple to make significant adjustments. The most notable example is the transition from the Lightning port to USB-C, a change Apple made to comply with European standards. Additionally, Apple had to open up its ecosystem to allow third-party app stores, something it had resisted for years. With strict regulations already affecting its business, Apple likely wanted to avoid the risk of launching a portless phone that could later be deemed non-compliant. Apart from dropping the portless concept, Apple also made changes to the phone's size. The original plan was for the iPhone 17 Air to have a 6.9-inch display, but it has now been reduced to approximately 6.6 inches. This adjustment was reportedly made to prevent structural problems. Many still remember the bending issues with the iPhone 6 Plus, and Apple is taking precautions to ensure history doesn't repeat itself. Even with these changes, the iPhone 17 Air still brings notable improvements. One of the biggest enhancements is its battery. Reports suggest Apple is using a high-intensity battery, allowing the phone to maintain strong battery life despite its slimmer design. This means users won't have to sacrifice battery performance for a sleeker appearance. Performance-wise, the phone will be powered by the A19 chip. However, it won't feature the Pro version of this processor, as that will likely be reserved for the more expensive models in the lineup. Despite this, the A19 is expected to deliver impressive speed and efficiency. Another major update is Apple's in-house cellular modem, which should be more power efficient compared to previous versions. One of